Hello, I'm Finlay and you're watching the Run For It YouTube channel. In this episode we're going to be talking through the brand new Saucony Ride 17 and how these have been updated from the previous version. Saucony kindly sent us a pair so we could test them out properly and let you know how they feel to run in. The main change to the Saucony Ride 17 is the updated midsole foam. The previous Ride 16 featured something called PWRRUN cushioning. The Ride 17 now features PWRRUN Plus cushioning, which is a thermoplastic polyurethane material. The reason they've changed this is because this PWRRUN Plus material offers more energy return than the previous PWRRUN foam, and it's also more resistant to temperature change. To explain a bit more on that, foams can actually heat up when you're running in them, and that means when you're at the end of your run and you actually need the most cushioning, you're actually getting the least. So this new midsole should deliver a more consistent experience with more energy return onto your feet. There's no changes to the midsole stack height, so the heel is still 35 millimeters thick and the forefoot's still 27 millimeters thick, so you have that 8 millimeter drop. And you can't really see it on the film here, but the sidewalls of the midsole also rise up around the sides of your feet to offer more support and stability. And if I slip out the sock liner here, you can see hopefully how soft and squidgy that is, and you can see the design on the bottom of the insole. This is actually a PWRRUN Plus sock liner, so that adds a little bit of additional cushioning on top of the already very cushioned midsole. There's no big changes to the upper of the Ride. Saucony just made some aesthetic updates. It looks a little bit sleeker, a little bit more refined. What's good is that the upper still works very much in harmony with the midsole to really support your foot throughout the gait cycle and lock in that midfoot area. When I first tried on the Ride then, they felt very comfortable in terms of the fit. Forefoot area feels really spacious, it's pretty broad there. Nice support in the midfoot area. My only slight concern was actually around the ankle area. It didn't feel like there was amazing lockdown, but I do have thin ankles, so I was going to see how that felt to run in. Cushioning felt very balanced in terms of feels nice and soft under the feet, but you can tell there's that kind of spring and that bounciness to the midsole foam as well. So out on a run, I just took them straight into a 10-mile run so I could test them out properly. Just did this at a steady pace, and immediately the cushioning felt really comfortable and very protective. Not overly soft, but really energetic and really comfortable to run in. I think the best way to describe the midsole is it feels really balanced. So when you're running along at those aerobic paces, you do just end up kind of forgetting about your feet and getting into a really nice rhythm, which was great to feel from that PWRRUN Plus cushioning. However, one thing I did notice when I was running was like kind of lack of rocker in the midsole. And personally, I do quite a lot of running in shoes that have a curved midsole from heel to toe, and that just works quite well with my gait. I've got quite tight calf muscles, and I find that helps roll me forward. So I did notice that that wasn't there and did feel a little bit different for me, but and a lot of people who don't like running in a shoe with a rocker, so you'll really like that sensation. In terms of the fit, unfortunately that ankle kind of lockdown was a slight issue for me when I was running. I do find that the ride's a little bit loose around the ankle area. I actually got around that by using the last eyelet and using the butterfly lacing technique, and that did actually correct that. It locked in the ankle area much better on subsequent runs. But that's something I would maybe like to see in a future version of the ride, is actually just that area becomes a little bit more supportive, because I think if you've got very thin ankles, you might find that that's a little bit loose for your shape of foot. One thing I really want to call out in the midsole though is actually just how stable that it feels, because I've run in PWRRUN Plus before in other Saucony models and haven't enjoyed it that much because I found it a little bit soft and therefore a little bit unstable under my feet. However, that's not the case with this. Saucony has done a really good job of delivering a lot of comfort and cushioning under your feet, but with a really stable platform. And some of that is helped if you look at the base of the shoe, just how broad that is. You know, that makes it inherently stable, and it performs really well when you're going around corners too. Your feet feel very planted and you really do feel in control of your feet. So what are the Saucony Ride 17 best for, and who are they suited to? Well, best way to think of the cushioning is that it feels very protective, but feels very energetic. And that means not only does it feel really comfortable for those slower, steady pace runs, it does perform well when you're picking up the pace and you're running with a little bit more intent at those steadier efforts. The midsole genuinely feels good at that type of effort. You can use these for your short recovery runs. You can then use them for those steadier, like mid-distance runs, all the way up to those long, slow miles. And that means that if you're training for an event such as a half marathon or a marathon this year, that these would be a great option to do the majority of your training miles in. And I'm sure for some people, these would actually be brilliant race day shoes for the likes of a half marathon or a marathon. And when I say the majority of your training is if you are prioritizing speed on some sessions and you're focused on getting your times down, as energetic as this midsole feels, it's not the most responsive midsole out there, and it's not going to give you the most help when you're running faster. That's where something like the Saucony Endorphin Speed would feel considerably better, because that uses a nylon plate in it and a more energy returning foam so that it propels you forward and helps improve your running economy when you're moving at those faster paces. And you've got to remember that pace is all relative. These shoes with plates and additional structures to help you move faster, they're not just for elite runners, they're for any runner that's trying to get to the finish line in a faster time. So that's just something to consider, and what you could maybe look at as a second shoe to something like the Saucony Ride for your training, and then obviously eventually on to race day if you are chasing those PBs. And finally, as the Ride 17 are so stable under your feet, these are great neutral running shoes for you if you do prefer a slightly more supportive experience from your running shoes. And technically, all neutral running shoes are categorized as the same level of stability, but it's best to think of them on a spectrum. There are subtle differences in how much support they offer, which is down to the geometry of the midsole, the shape, the arch structure. There's a number of reasons that can affect how stable a neutral running shoe is on your feet, and we would definitely position the Ride 17 on the more stable end of the spectrum. If you're wondering how the Ride 17 compare to other brands and models, I'd say the Brooks Ghost 15 are probably the most comparable in terms of how the actual shoes feel, the support, the underfoot experience, and what they're suited to. I would say the Hoka Clifton are very similar in terms of the overall comfort and cushioning experience. It's just the rocker geometry in the Clifton, that curved heel-to-toe design, offers quite a different sensation to the Ride 17, and that's where you're actually going to find quite a difference when it actually comes to running in the shoes. And that brings me to the end of this Saucony Ride 17 running shoes review. Hope you enjoy this episode and that helps you decide on if the rides are the right ones for you. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please make sure and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. See you soon.